Come on, man.
Today it's us. Tomorrow it's you.
Come on, man. Y'all, you know that was fucked up. Y'all know that was fucked up. Y'all know that was fucked up.
Trail. Wake up. Don't throw you in the fire. Don't throw you in the fire. Don't throw you in the fire too. Understand? They just tear gas you. They don't give a about you either. Why you protecting them? Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! We're gonna go this way.
Things are getting really bad with ICE in Chicago, and I really need you to watch this video. Yesterday, a woman was shot in a protest in Brighton Park on the west side. And then in Logan Square, there was a drive-by tear gassing from ICE. So parents and children near a school waiting to be released, and for those parents to get their children, were tear gassed. Also this week, in an operation called Midway Blitz, people were dragged out of their homes in the middle of the night in an ICE raid. Many people were naked, including children, and some people were zip-tied. Women, kids, men, it doesn't matter. People need to understand that there is a reign of terror going on. It does not matter what country you were born in. You do not deserve to be tear gassed, shot, or otherwise threatened. To me, citizenship status is irrelevant because we are all human beings that live on the planet, and no one should be able to own or control any piece of land because it's simply imperialistic. But point being, many American-born people are experiencing this violence, especially at protests. They're getting shoved to the ground, handcuffed, arrested. People behaving violently. It's not the protesters, it's not immigrants, it's fucking ICE. It is state-sanctioned violence, and we...
Okay, y'all, as a former police officer, I cannot fucking believe what I'm hearing. Dispatch proof, audio proof out of Chicago shows and tells us that the Chicago Police Department was given a stand-down order by their command staff and their chief when ICE agents were being surrounded by armed citizens. They called out for help, and the Chicago Police Department was told to stand down. This is not misinformation as it's being said. This is actual audio proof from official dispatch recordings. I don't know about y'all, but when someone is in need, in uniform, every fucking uniform available goes to help that other badge and or uniform, regardless of the agency that you're from. So this is absolutely despicable. So do you believe every command staff in Chicago should resign right now, be replaced or fired, including the fucking chief? And replaced by respectable, honorable law enforcement officers that actually have their brothers and sisters in uniforms back? Or do you believe this is okay because Trump is in office and whatever Chicago is doing is okay because we want to push back against President Trump and the National Guard? And that also includes jeopardizing law enforcement's lives. Let me know in the comments. Oh, and don't forget to...
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, Africans. I hope you're faring well where you are, and if you ain't faring well, please fare well where you are. There is a proverb from Uganda. Uganda is just our neighbor to the west. We don't have neighbors to the east because we border the Indian Ocean. But to the west we have Uganda. So it says, Omukazi weyeze nempolo waye mulanga tasasira ku gulu iye. That's a Ugandan proverb. Tell me what you understand by that. I myself do not understand that, but this is Kiganda. This is Buganda, a language in Uganda which is Bantu. It's called Buganda, right? Uganda has a very rich history, by the way. If you didn't know, it really has a very, very great history. So this is the translation in English. A woman may walk with her baby on her back in the woods, but it does not mean she has no burden to bear, right? See, in recent weeks in Chicago, United States of America, there has been a marked escalation of operations by ICE. ICE means Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that many critics argue blur the line between lawful deportation and something more akin to enforced disappearance or kidnappings. A careful philosophical, ethical, and deconstructive reading of what is happening will help us to see what is at stake, not just for immigrants, but for the legal forms, moral order, and social trust in a democratic society. So I want us to watch a series of video here to have a philosophical depth, to have an ethical depth, and then by the end of the video, I shall give you my thoughts, where we shall also have a deep critical analysis with a depth of deconstruction. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Well, I guess it's official. It's now illegal to be brown in the United States. ICE has detained Juan Carlos Lopez Gomez, who is a 20-year-old native U.S. citizen. He was born here. And at his most recent court hearing, after he was detained by ICE, he showed his birth certificate, and the judge said, well, I have no authority to release him. That is where we are at this point in this country, where even your birth certificate and being a U.S. citizen will not save you from ICE. His mom and a community advocate showed up to his court hearing with both his birth certificate and social security card, and that wasn't enough to get this man released. The state of Florida is still holding him as an unauthorized alien. They're continuing to move straight down the list, and I want to be so clear with everybody right now, unless you are a straight, white, Christian man, they are going to come for you eventually too. They are moving straight down the list. They will come for you. I'm going to keep following this story, so follow along to stay up to date and stay.
ICE is now reportedly arresting babysitters at public parks in LA and throwing American kids in the back of vans until they locate their parents. Right, and that is they already don't identify themselves, they cover their faces, and realistically, no one can know if they're kidnappers or not. Right, and so you have the situation where these kids are getting picked up on the orders of a man who, I mean, at least Elon Musk says is on the Epstein list. ICE is also reportedly detaining more American citizens because they refuse to show them proof of citizenship when they're pulled over or when they're approached on the street. We're also seeing reports of even when Americans show proof of their citizenship, it's often ignored. And that is, you know, Americans don't actually need to prove they're citizens. It's a violation of our Fourth Amendment rights, and so you have people calling ICE jackboot thugs. Some even equating them to the Gestapo and the secret police. Right, and all of this is the government reportedly wants to deport 4% of the country, and so with that you had one columnist writing, you can't deport 4% of Americans without forever changing America's opinion and relationship with police and law enforcement. Also, it appears in violation of federal law, the Marines have begun arresting people in Los Angeles, with reportedly the first person they arrested being a 28-year-old veteran who is going to his medical appointment at the VA. And that is, we're also seeing reports that the troops and Marines deployed in LA are actually pissed to be there, worried that they're being forced to turn on the people. Right? And then all of that as today is no King's Day, with people going out to protest all over the country today. People taking to the streets to say this is not okay.
How come ICE isn't chasing the white immigrants? How come ICE isn't chasing the immigrants from Russia, Poland, Europe? How come? It's not about race, it's not about skin, but here we are.
Stay in your cars! Tell everyone to stay in your houses! Don't open your doors if you're going to war! City! This is my city, that's right! Take off your mask! Take off your mask! What? Inside of your houses, everyone, do not come out! Stay in your houses! Hi everyone, I am here in West Chicago right now on 59 and Forest Avenue. This morning we have received reports that ICE is coming, and I have seen them, masked people, masked individuals. We don't know who they are. We are making sure that the community knows their rights. Stay inside of your house. Do not answer the door unless there is a warrant. If you are an ally, come out with a camera, take pictures, record.
So Governor Pritzker of Illinois has just come out to confirm that ICE is harassing people in the city of Chicago for not being white. They're going up to people for no reason, who are just going about their day, but they're not white. So they're harassing them to see if they fight back, if they do something to ICE agents so that they can just arrest them on the street. They're goading them. These are families with children, with multiple members walking through the streets of Chicago, and because they're not white, ICE agents are targeting them, questioning them, asking them for documents. That's insane. That's not American. People should be allowed to not be white in the streets of the United States. But this is where we are, people.
I think everybody needs to understand what is happening in Chicago right now. The government has sent ICE agents in order to do something called a mass deportation of illegal immigrants. The Chicago people are protesting and fighting back in regards to that. What we're seeing are peaceful protests, but for some reason, ICE agents in disguise, not even in uniform, are throwing tear gas in the crowd to make it seem like it's violent. It has gotten to the point that they're throwing tear gas at the police themselves.
They'll throw you in the fire! They'll throw you in the fire too! Understand?
I would just like to iterate again. The protests are peaceful. There's no violence in these protests. ICE agents are making up this violence for the media. And let me tell you what they're going to do. It's the same script that they had with the BLM protests. You arrest somebody falsely and you get people riled up. When people get riled up, you throw tear gas and call it violence. Oh, they were violent, so we had to arrest them. Now their actions are justified when it's not, because we can see what's going on. We have phones now. We're in an era in which everything is posted online. We can see it. It is important for everybody at home to stay informed, to know what's going on. And if you're at the protest yourself, please keep it peaceful. Still let people know what's going on. Speak out about it. Let people know that it's ICE agents who are doing the violence, who are trying to promote this violence and trying to make a narrative that's not true. Because if they will tear gas police officers, who's to tell how far they will go? They're falsely arresting black people on purpose and holding them in immigration centers for no reason. Like, what is going on? But y'all stay positive. Let me know.
Donald Trump's ICE agents who have been set loose in Chicago are fulfilling their patriotic duty of attacking police officers. It seems that the far-right mask-wearing thugs that the DHS is currently employing and massively overpaying to violate people's rights are now tear-gassing police officers in the cities that they're occupying, further suggesting that most, if not all, of Donald Trump's ICE militias are just far-right thugs that have just signed up for a paycheck and an opportunity to enforce some vigilante justice on behalf of their own white supremacist psycho beliefs. I was under the impression that Republicans and MAGA and Trump and literally everyone on that side of the aisle backed the blue. They loved police officers and that they stand with the police. I don't know if it's just a culture difference thing, but in the UK, we don't use tear gas to show our appreciation for people. As for all of the right wings whining about Biden being a dictator, this is literally federal troops attacking local authorities. These ICE agents came from God knows where. They showed up at the behest of Trump, who is using his authority as president to get even with cities that didn't vote for him. Now those radicalized thugs who wear masks so that they can't be held accountable are attacking local police officers. People whose literal job it is to keep people safe and protect these communities. And ICE is attacking them as well. They still seem confused and upset as to why everybody hates them when this is what they go around doing. It's 2025. It's literally only just a matter of time before an entire dossier of every known ICE agent's name and address gets leaked onto a Warhammer forum or something. Only an idiot would sign up to do work like this and assume that there would never be consequences. We shall see. It's just my opinion. Follow for more.
Things are getting crazy in Chicago. Now Chicago gang members are starting to threaten ICE officials and the Trump administration, warning them that if they step foot in Chicago, they will be at war with the gangs of Chicago. But make this make sense to me. On what planet do these gang affiliations even think that these attempts or these threats that they are making to the Trump administration and to ICE agents are going to do anything but the opposite of what they're hoping for? This administration is not a pushover. This administration is not hollow. This administration is not Mr. Autopen sitting in the office. This administration will not back down. Did we learn nothing with the riots in Los Angeles? Did we learn nothing with the riots in Oregon, with the riots in Seattle, with the riots that were taking place in New Jersey? Did we learn nothing? This administration does not govern with a weak arm that the left is always ruling with. This administration is showing power and strength. And just in case you didn't know.
See, I'm pissed off because a lot of people out there are acting like they don't understand what is actually happening in the city of Chicago in regards to the ICE raids. Let me tell you something. Black people, again, are collateral damage in this. And all the black people that are getting mad at ICE and Donald Trump, hold on, you got to get mad at the politicians right here locally, because it was the politicians right here in your city that decided to dump the migrant issue on the black community like they do every single time.
Lock in, fuck niggas. We about to fact check this shit. First, if you fuck with me, check out the podcast. Let's get it. What the hell is he talking about? Black people need to understand that we have more in common with an undocumented American than a white man, which is why today's word of the day is intersectionality. Basically, when two separate groups share similar discrimination or privilege. One example is black men. There's an intersect between black men and white men because we are men. There's a privilege, but you also intersect being black, meaning the discrimination that black people face, you will also face. And this results to a unique experience that only black men can experience, but can intersect with other people. And as we analyze the Trump administration, they're highlighting the intersectionality between undocumented Americans and black people, which, if you haven't guessed it, is law enforcement. Not to mention, statistically, undocumented migrants are more likely to be in low-income neighborhoods than high-income neighborhoods, meaning they aren't invading our neighborhoods, they're actually a part of the neighborhoods. In other words, if black people allow undocumented Americans to be taken up from the streets, that means the chances of black people facing more police brutality is gonna skyrocket, because the Trump administration wants more law enforcement in the streets, which is why the Trump administration wants you to believe that undocumented Americans are violent criminals, which is another example of black people and undocumented Americans intersecting, because the ultimate goal is to change the definition of an American, which to them is a cisgendered American-born white Christian person, and anyone outside of that is not an American.
The other day, ICE raided an entire apartment building on the south side of Chicago, mostly black neighborhood. Helicopters flew overhead, they blasted open apartment doors, terrorized the entire building, zip-tied children. And at the end of it, one of the occupants said, "I feel defeated." That's the whole point. That's the whole point. And before I talk about that point and what we have to do, I'll tell a family story. My family has been through times like this before. My mom, Polish Jewish. Shortly after war began, she and her family fled to the Soviet Union because a Jewish Soviet officer said, "Come with me and you'll live, stay in Poland, and Hitler will kill you." So they fled to the Soviet Union, and within a month, they were arrested and sent off to the Barents Sea to freeze and die. One family member did die. My mother's grandmother was blinded. Her mother almost died of cholera. And that Soviet officer was partly right, because those in my family who stayed in Poland, they were gassed in Belzec. So Stalin, in this one instance, was actually better than the Austrian mustache guy. And because of that, I'm alive today. And in another way, I could tell you why he was better than Donald Trump. When Stalin's NKVD, that was Stalin's FBI and ICE back then, came to arrest my mom's family, they didn't come in helicopters, all militarized, terrorizing an entire building and neighborhood. No, Stalin's henchmen came in suits and in a big black car, that was it, carted my family away. Stalin was more humane than Donald Trump is today. So why is Trump engaging in these inhumane, immoral shows of force that violate the Fourth Amendment? They're unconstitutional. It's precisely because of this. He wants all of us, not just this occupant in this building, but all of us to feel defeated. He wants all of us, you, me, to feel defeated, that he's already won, he's already dictator. We just gotta give up. We shouldn't resist. That's the wrong response. The reality is that there's more of us, you and me, who are fed up with Trump, who want him gone, than there are of them. Donald Trump wants to be a dictator. He hasn't won yet. We can't let him win. We've got to engage in protest. The next big protest is October 18th. If necessary, we're going to have to engage in strikes. We're going to have to engage in mass civil disobedience. We're not there yet. That's how other nations beat back emerging dictatorships. That's how we have to do it. It's not over.
I want to speak to every individual that's watching today. But before I do that, I want to thank every organizer, every IPO member, every attorney, every neighbor, organizations like OCAD, ICER, Palenque, LSNA, who showed up today to protect our neighbors, who showed up today to protect our families. Thank you for putting your bodies on the line to make sure that we can keep families together. But to the individuals that are watching, don't let that fascist man that sits in the Oval Office convince you that he is only deporting criminals. Don't let that manipulative man convince you that we are better without the people that he is kidnapping from our city. Do not let the White House convince you that we are safer because of what he is doing. In fact, what he is doing is putting our communities at the most risk. He is leaving behind children. He is separating families. He is taking away providers. He is taking away organizers from our community. The people that showed up today, they showed up in good faith. They showed up with cases. They showed up with attorneys. They showed up with every single law on their side to ensure that they went back home to their families, and they were kidnapped today by ICE. Do not let anyone else convince you otherwise. And for everyone who is watching who may know a neighbor or a relative, who may receive a text message to show up to an appointment that may have come from this nonprofit organization getting millions off kidnapping people.
Shame on them. Shut it down.
Remind them that they have elected officials who will ensure that we shut it down.
Shut it down.
That we will demand our mayor and every single department in the city of Chicago to find where they are renting, and we will shut them down.
Shut it down.
Because in the city of Chicago, there are elected officials who wish to keep you safe. Despite that man that's in the Oval Office, you have local elected officials that wish, that work, that will put our bodies on the line to keep you safe. Those individuals that showed up today, they're kidnappers. And we can't call them anything else. They robbed families of their mothers. They robbed families of their siblings. They robbed families of their fathers. The image that will forever be ingrained in my head will be the women in handcuffs crying, begging their families to help. The fathers who were taken out of that building crying, begging for us to help. And so we will do just that. We will not rest until we ensure that we demand for their release, because they have every right to be here. And until ICE and all these organizations understand that Chicago is not the place to come. We won't let it happen. It happened in Minneapolis yesterday. They tried it here today. It won't happen again. It is my honor to introduce a partner that's been in this work for a really long time. Someone in many cases who educates me.
Some of the key points that were there, some of the key points that have been illustrated and what I have gathered is that we have terms such as Operation Midway Blitz, right? So the ICE in this operation has carried out numerous raids in Chicago and nearby suburbs, including in apartment buildings, and using militarized tactics, helicopters, flashbangs, and chemical irritants. Imagine these are human beings, these are civilians, and you are using that which you'll use on a terrorist or maybe on a battlefield, on your own citizens. This shows how much America is rotten, right? Another thing, we have collateral arrests and mistaken detentions. These are simple allegations that ICE agents in Chicago have detained people without criminal records, including US citizens, sometimes in error cases of mistaken identity or similarity of names. You also have deceptive tactics and lack of due process. Complaints includes that the ICE agents are showing up without proper warrants in unmarked or plain clothes, using ambiguous wordings, e.g. presenting what seems to be a normal routine check-in or normal routine check-in, only to detain the people, refusing or delaying identification or making collateral arrests, right? So we've also had public fear and destabilization of communities. Parents keeping children home, people avoiding routine civic spaces, distrust of law enforcement, fear of being taken, even when no wrongdoing is alleged, right? Also, we have deaths and violence involved. One notable case is that of Silverio Vilgas Gonzalez in Franklin Park, who was fatally shot by ICE agents after being approached while dropping off his child at school. The government claims self-defense, but critics question the circumstances for the claimed self-defense, right? So let's deconstruct all this situation. This situation is to construct it is to look at how the language and the framing used around the terms such as immigration enforcement, deportation, law and order, and public safety obscure more than they reveal. How they displace responsibility, hide asymmetries, or normalize what might otherwise be intolerable, right? So we have enforcement versus accountability. When ICE or DHS call these actions targeted operations or deportations of those who are criminal histories, there is a slippage, the ideal of targeting the worst of offenders, which emerges with broad sweeps that affect many without those histories. The language of targeting legitimates the operations and giving moral cover. But when mistakes happen, citizens detained, people without records arrested, the framing often relegates them to collateral damage, acceptable losses, right? So we also have visibility versus invisibility. Some acts are held in public, others are partially concealed. Agents in plain clothes, unmarked vehicles, early morning raids, ambiguous warrants, or no visible warrant. This alternation between visibility and invisibility or ambiguity creates confusion and fear, making it harder for those harmed to claim rights or seek redress, right? Also, we have law versus extra legal practices. The law sets rules due to processes, warrants, probable cause, limit on searches, rights of citizens. Many reports accuse ICE of stepping outside those legal guardrails, whether via methods that infringe Fourth Amendment rights or by failing to respect agreements, such as the collateral arrest agreement in Chicago, that limit how and when ICE may detain people beyond their targets, right? So citizenship as a shield, not citizenship as shield, but porous. The difference between citizens and non-citizens is central, yet the report shows that the shield of citizenship is imperfect. Some citizens are detained, harassed, and caught in wrong sweeps. This reveals a deeper instability when state agents act with less transparency, when due processes is not always respected. Even legal status is not enough, right? So I want us to look at the legal, or rather at the ethical standpoint of these actions. Let's look at the moral principles which are at stake. So drawing from philosophy, moral one, the moral philosophy, which is ethics, there are several ethical frameworks that help assess whether what is happening is justifiable or not. First of all, we have the philosophical branch, which is called deontological ethics. From a duty-based perspective, the state has obligation to respect each person's rights to liberty, due processes, bodily integrity, to obey its own laws, to ensure that power is constrained. If agents are detaining people without warrants, mistreating children, or violating formal agreements, they are breaching the moral duties. Even if the end, which is removing undocumented immigrants, reducing crimes, are claimed to be valuable. In this case, the end does not justify the means. The means itself is wrong. The end itself is wrong. So there is no end which justifies the means, right? So we have the philosophical branch of consequentialism. One asks, what are the consequences of these policies? On one side, removing of individuals without legal status, perceived improvement in deterrence, claims of greater public safety. On the other hand, serious harms, trauma, community mistrust, citizens wrongly detained, children distressed, families separated, loss of civic engagement, erosion of rule of law. If harms heavily outweighs benefit, the ethical case for such enforcement weakens. Right? So we have the philosophical branch of, which is called Rawlsian or other distributive justice frameworks. People should be treated equal under the law. Vulnerable groups, which are immigrants, children, people without full legal protection, are often more disadvantaged. Ethical justice demands that enforcement strategies do not disproportionately burden those who have less power to defend themselves. Also, there is the idea of procedural justice, not just that outcomes are fair, but that processes are fair as well. We also have virtue ethics as the fourth one. So what kind of moral character do these actions cultivate for agents, for society? Is there compassion? Is there respect? Is there restraint? I don't see any of these. Or fear, cruelty, overreach, humiliation. That is what I see. Actions that sow fear among children, that mistaken identity, that treat people as objects to be removed rather than persons with dignity. This is a risk which is eroding the virtues necessary for a healthy democracy, right? And the fifth philosophical branch will be the ethics of care, particularly relevant when children are involved or vulnerable families or vulnerable family situation. Ethics of care highlights relationship, dependence, right? It urges us to ask, what are we doing to families, to communities? How do children feel? How are homes disrupted? This ethical lens pushes us to see beyond abstract law to real human lives, right? So, after looking at all this and understanding the ethical background, we have to look at it from each lens and understand if these are kidnapping or are these deportations. That is one thing that we must understand. So by legal definition, kidnapping typically involves unlawful taking of a person against their will, often by force, deception, or other means, without legal authority. Deportation, on the other hand, or removal, is a lawful process, at least in the theory, under immigration laws with due processes, court orders, etc. But when ICE operations blur that line by using deception, presenting as routine check-in, ambiguous identity, by detaining people without warrants, by mistaking identity, by using militarized force, by detaining citizens, by separating families, by creating fear so that people avoid civic spaces, the operation may resemble what many would moralize as kidnapping. Involuntary confinement or removal. Sorry, English is not my first language. So without clear legal protection, with fear and harm arising. So while legally ICE operations are claimed to be under statutes and judicial orders, in practice, some of these tactics raise serious ethical, constitutional, and moral concerns. The question becomes clear. Does legality in law suffice to legitimacy in justice? Right? That's a good question to ask yourself. So the state claims a sovereign right to protect borders, to enforce immigration laws, but sovereignty isn't absolute. It is bound by moral principles, constitutional law, human rights. But when the state's agents wield power that impinges severely on person's liberty, dignity, bodily integrity, and especially when mistakes happen and rights are infringed, the legitimacy of that power is called into question. Also, we have the issue of the social contract. Citizens give up some freedoms in exchange for protection, justice, equality under the law. If parts of the citizenry feel they are under threat, even if they are formally protected by citizenship. But see, agents acting in fear, they induce fear on people, they are extra legal or violent in many ways, trust erodes. Democratic legitimacy depends not only on enforcing laws, but doing so visibly, accountability, and doing it justly. Ethics also asks us about moral injury. What kind of society do we become when we tolerate shock raids on apartment blocks, children zip-tied, children detained in error, agents using unmarked vehicles or deploying chemical agents or helicopters over neighborhoods, even for those who not directly targeted? The community suffers trauma, right? So there's much and much more to learn from this. And here is my final take upon this. See, while deportation is legal and it is legally sanctioned under the US immigration laws, the recent operations in Chicago with their reports of warrantless arrest, wrongful detention, including citizen, deceptive practices, family separation, and use of force, right? This and use of force approach something more morally grave than simple. Sorry, English is not my first language. You see, to make it easy and to make it easier to understand, the difference between a lawful state power and a moral crime lies not only in the statutes, but in how power is exercised. Under the rule of law, with the respect for human dignity, under transparency with due process, where the practice departs from those things, the ethical justification phrase. Yes. This is EFK Original Documentaries. You like what I do, subscribe. I'll surely appreciate. It helps me bring good and quality content to you. And see you in the next one. Stay positive. Support me on Patreon, if you may. Support me on Patreon. I have 52 members. 3, my beloved 3, are the only ones who are giving something by the end of the month. If you may, if something touches your heart, if God touches your heart, even $1 per month can go a long way to help and support this channel, because this channel also supports and helps those people who may be in need of something. Yeah. So your help comes a long way. Yeah. See you in the next one. It's not about the money, it's about the message. Don't get it wrong.